Fever fans, listen up though, because every single one of the team's 44 games will be broadcast on national TV this season. That is the most games in franchise history, as well as the most for a single WNBA team.
Like, they're still showing up and screaming and cheering, and that's one, because, you know, obviously they love this team and they love all the players on this team, but two, they don't really care how many points I score. Like, they just, you know, hopefully they love me as a person and obviously love me as a player. A realization of, you know, it's not all about the way you perform every single day. And, you know, there's going to be some tough games this year. It's, you know, unrealistic to expect myself to perform for 44 games. There's going to be some games where you just don't make shots, and just reminding myself of that.
The Bullies are going absolutely nuts after Fever announced big news about Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark just had all 44 of her Indiana Fever games announced on national television, breaking every broadcast record the WNBA has ever seen. If you thought the people who spent 2 years calling her overrated were going to take this quietly, you clearly have not been paying attention to how this circus operates.
And I wouldn't say that was something I worried about, but, you know, obviously people love you for the product you put on the floor, and hopefully they love you for the person that you are too, and the way you continue to show up, the way you're a teammate, and the way you're a leader, and the way you love the fans.
Before anything else, let's actually register the size of what just happened, because I genuinely don't think people are processing this correctly. The Indiana Fever, before Clark arrived, were essentially invisible on the national sports radar.
The Caitlin Clark effect is coming to North Texas.
She makes her debuts in the pros against the Dallas Wings, and that game is expected to sell out quickly.
In 2022 and 2023, they were a lottery-level franchise, drawing the kind of television ratings that made network executives quietly question why they even maintained a broadcast deal with the team. Then Clark showed up, and the entire commercial math of the league restructured itself around that one fact almost overnight.
A sold-out crowd today at the Barclays Center for the New York Liberty's first home game of the season. And with rookie sensation Caitlin Clark in town, more than $2 million in tickets were sold. That's an all-time WNBA record.
Games started selling out across the entire league, not just in Indiana. Opposing arenas began filling up specifically to watch her play, which is something that had not happened around a single WNBA player in years. The WNBA broke its own all-time viewership record, pulling in over 2.4 million average viewers across the 2024 season, and the finals averaged more viewers than any finals in over 2 decades.
Teams also marking a league first as well this year. All 44 of their games will be nationally televised. The Fever is the only team to have all of its games nationally broadcast.
Now in 2025, all 44 Fever games land on national television across ESPN, ABC, Peacock, Prime Video, and ION, which you can grab completely free through Roku, an over-the-air antenna, or YouTube TV.
We should also point out that WTHR is once again partnering with the Fever this year, and we'll be bringing you multiples of those games, more than a dozen, right here on Channel 13.
That has never happened for any franchise in WNBA history. Not the Storm, not the Aces, not the Liberty, and not any team that came before them. The Indiana Fever now hold the record for most national TV games in franchise history, and most national TV games for a single WNBA team in one season simultaneously. Both records were broken at the same time, in the same announcement, and the people who said Clark was a marketing bubble are somewhere right now pretending they never said it. What is even more telling is that the league itself did not have to negotiate hard to get networks interested. The networks came looking because advertisers follow eyeballs, and Clark delivers eyeballs at a scale the WNBA had never experienced before her arrival.
Is to try different lineups and to try different people, and, you know, to give the people that are fighting for roster spots a chance to go out there and compete and perform. Like, I'm not going to go out and play 30 minutes on Saturday. That's just not going to be the case. That's not what it's about.
Here is where it gets interesting, because the moment this announcement dropped, the anti-Clark crowd did not celebrate what it means for every player in the WNBA whose paycheck grows when broadcast revenue goes up. Instead, they immediately ran to a media day clip of Clark discussing how she might play off the ball occasionally, and acted like they had just uncovered some kind of confession that proved their entire argument.
A little bit of off the ball stuff, like, I think mostly on dead balls, like, I'm the best I think I'm the best transition player in the league. That's where I thrive. Everybody knows that's my game. So, you know, getting the ball off of rebound or in transition, like that's probably when I'm going to be the primary ball handler more than anything. And then
The level of mental gymnastics required to watch record-breaking television announcements and respond by talking about ball handler rotations is genuinely impressive in the worst possible way. These are the same people who were insisting last season that the Fever's success was despite Clark, not because of her, and now they are watching 44 national TV games get announced for the team built around her.
the way you're a teammate and the way you're a leader and the way you love the fans. And so when I was hurt, I felt like that was something that was really humbling for me and something that I was super grateful for.
So let me walk you through what actually happened at that media day, because the way the clip got framed versus what Clark actually said are two completely different conversations. A reporter asked her how she felt about playing off the ball more under Stephanie White's system this season. Clark gave a measured, professional answer about how training camp exists to try different lineups and how preseason is about giving players fighting for roster spots a chance to compete and perform. She was calm, she was coachable, and she was clearly choosing her words carefully because that is just who she is publicly, and her critics keep misreading that composure as something it is not.
So that decision, number one. And number two, you talked a lot, both you and Steph talked about the pickup games and trying to make it as game-like as possible.
She acknowledged that bringing the ball up 94 feet against full-court pressure on every single possession is physically exhausting, and that having Raven Johnson and Ty Singletary provide some ball handling relief gives the Fever different looks that make them harder to guard overall. She even mentioned that Aaliyah Boston handled ball handling duties last year when the team was hit hard by injuries. So this is not some new revolutionary idea being forced onto her against her will.
She made it clear how she wants the team to play and even said she's the best player in the league in transition, or believes that she is, which is, pretty clear.
Consider that Clark averaged 8.4 assists per game in her rookie season, which ranked among the top assist numbers ever recorded by a guard in WNBA history, and she did that while also averaging 19.2 points per game and leading the league in three-pointers made. She is not someone who needs the ball taken away to make the offense function better. She is the reason the offense functions at all.
Even if I'm not out there being able to throw crazy passes or hit a long shot, like they can still find a lot of joy in showing up and, getting to see somebody they idolize, and that can give them a little bit of hope.
And then, right in the middle of that diplomatic and team-first answer, Clark stopped mid-sentence and corrected herself in real time in a way that told you everything you needed to know about where her head actually is heading into this season. She said she thinks she is the best transition player in the league, that it is where she thrives, and that getting the ball in transition is when she is going to be the primary ball handler more than anything else. She caught herself being modest and immediately walked it back toward confidence, which is more revealing than if she had just led with the bravado from the start, because it shows that the modest framing was a conscious choice, and the confidence underneath it is the reality.
And the Fever have built their roster around that too. They're making no bones about how they've constructed the roster, and that's to run with Caitlin Clark.
When Clark pushes pace with open floor ahead of her, she is the most dangerous offensive weapon the WNBA has seen at that position in the modern era of the sport. Her ability to pull up from beyond 30 feet in transition, to thread passes through collapsing defenses while moving at full speed, and to make the correct read faster than most players can even recognize the developing situation is not something a system quietly contains or redistributes among other players.
In a way, it was a little bit of a mental break, but at the same time, injury is really mentally taxing as well. Like, people don't always realize that, especially when you're at the point of trying to come back and trying to get over the hump of trusting your body. That's the hardest part, is
Last season, even playing through an injury that would have benched most players entirely, she still finished with shooting numbers that put her in elite company for her position. That is a force of nature, and smart organizations build everything else around forces of nature rather than trying to manage them into something smaller and more digestible for critics.
You've done everything you can, rehab-wise, and to get back on the court, and then it's like the mental block of trusting your body and knowing you put the work in. So I feel like it's a little more mentally exhausting from that standpoint.
That is exactly what the Indiana Fever have done this offseason, which makes the Stephanie White conspiracy angle even harder to take seriously when you actually look at the roster decisions being made with real money. GM Amber Cox said plainly in her media day comments that the roster was constructed specifically to run up-tempo and that rebounding was a major offseason priority.
Caitlin Clark knows exactly who she is and what she's saying. Indiana Fever had media day, and Caitlin Clark was asked the dreaded off-ball question. How much do you think you'll play off the ball? And she was diplomatic.
They targeted rebounders not because they want slow half-court games, but because rebounding leads directly to transition, and transition leads to Clark in open space, which is the most efficient offensive situation in the sport right now. The entire front office is publicly and repeatedly describing a vision of basketball that is literally built around what Clark just said she does best.
This has been an interesting time frame for them, some of them making decisions to, move to different markets.
Monique Billings was brought in as someone who can get up and down the floor at the pace Clark operates. Misha Hines-Allen, who came in on what was widely considered a bargain contract given her skill set, told reporters that one of her primary reasons for signing with Indiana was the opportunity to play alongside Clark, and that Clark personally wanted her on the team. Cox also pointed out that players like Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, Sophie Cunningham, and Dee Shields all had opportunities to go elsewhere in free agency and actively chose to return, which speaks to the environment Clark has helped build inside that locker room. Nobody with options is running away from this situation, and that alone should tell the critics something important about what is actually happening inside that organization.
22-year-old make her WNBA debut.
This is going to be history. It's like what I told her, that's pretty epic that we get to watch her, because not a lot of games here in Dallas with somebody that big of a star.
The numbers support the direction this team is heading in a way that makes the critics' argument structurally collapse under basic scrutiny. During Clark's rookie season, the Fever ranked second in the entire WNBA in pace, and they were genuinely electric to watch because of it. They dropped to 5th last year, and that drop happened directly alongside Clark missing significant time due to injury and the supporting cast playing well beyond their normal workload just to keep the season afloat. The difference between 5th place and 1st place in pace across the entire league last season was actually very small in the raw numbers, meaning one fully healthy Clark shifts that ranking immediately without requiring any other major changes to how the team plays.
I mean, obviously somebody that's been here, I think she's going into her 9th year with this franchise, and she's seen every bit of good, bad, not as good, whatever it's been, and she's given a lot of herself. And even last year,
Raven Johnson, the rookie who admitted she asked Clark approximately 1,000 questions during a single training camp practice, is developing into exactly the kind of backup ball handler who can give Clark the occasional rest she deserves after carrying this franchise through injuries and organizational chaos last season. Johnson talked openly about how Clark was helping her navigate plays, cuts, and positioning every single day in camp, which tells you Clark is functioning as an actual floor leader and not just a scorer looking for her own shot. That leadership dynamic, combined with Ty Singletary's ability to push pace and Kelsey Mitchell's scoring off the ball, gives the Fever genuine depth at guard for the first time since Clark arrived. And that depth is what makes the transition offense truly dangerous, because defenses cannot key in on one read anymore.
All these young kids and these young boys, young girls, and even older fans as well, they're still showing up and screaming and cheering, and that's one because obviously they love this team and they love all the players on this team.
What I find most revealing about the anti-Clark crowd is not that they criticize her, because criticism is legitimate and healthy in any sports conversation worth having. What is revealing is the sheer desperation behind the criticism, the way every diplomatic answer gets mined for weakness. Every coaching decision gets celebrated as proof she needs to be contained, and every record-breaking announcement gets immediately redirected towards some minor quote taken out of context. Clark is never going to throw her coach or teammates under the bus on camera because she genuinely does not operate that way, and her critics have been waiting for a public breakdown for 2 full years that is simply never going to arrive. Players with her level of talent and this level of commercial impact let the results speak, and the results have been speaking at a volume that is becoming impossible to talk over.
You know, when I showed up to a game and I took as much time as I could to sign an autograph, like that might be the only bad thing about this year is like I'm not gonna have as much time to sign autographs when I'm preparing to actually play a game, so.
The cultural weight of 44 national TV games deserves its own moment of real acknowledgement because the WNBA was founded in 1996, and it took 28 years for a single team to command a fully televised schedule. Before Clark's arrival, the league's national TV package was modest at best, with most games either on regional sports networks or buried in late-night cable slots that casual fans never found. One player arrived and moved the commercial needle so dramatically that networks are now in genuine competition for broadcast rights to games that could not secure a basic cable slot just 5 years ago. Every player in the league benefits from that shift through increased sponsorship deals, bigger broadcast contracts, and a wider audience that discovers other talented players simply because they tuned in to watch Clark and stayed for the sport itself.
And this is important too. It's also about during the season not taking all the reps because that's how you stay healthy. Not taking all the reps, not exerting your body to that degree. So it is helpful for her, as I've maintained, to develop that part of her game off the ball and for the Fever to have those options.
Clark is healthy. The roster was purpose-built around her transition game. Every single game is on national television, and she walked into Media Day calling herself the best transition player in the entire league without blinking. The same people who predicted she would be quietly managed into a reduced role are now watching 44-game national TV announcements shatter franchise records and rewriting their talking points in real time. Subscribe right now, because what is coming this season is going to make everything we have seen so far look like a warm-up act.